Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Why Lie? Also, the V team takes a look at the Attorney General's race. And Governor Kay Ivey moves into the mansion.
What a dump.
I beg your pardon. We never promised you a rose garden. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V team. Welcome all.
Hello.
Howdy, howdy.
Well, as Betty Davis said, Jack, buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Kay Ivey is in Paris. She'll be back next Wednesday. But right now, we want to talk about the administration's doubling, tripling down on what was a very simple story, Josh, and it could have gone away in about 5 minutes. We reported that that the troopers out in Colorado that were with her said that she had a series of mini strokes or something that appeared like a stroke, and that she was hospitalized for 4 days, and that the story was trying to be covered up by Steve Pelham, her then chief of staff. Mm-hmm. We sent all that over to the governor's office. They never answered us, but then they took to other media to deny the story. You want to pick it up there?
Yeah, they attempted to spin this, however, several weeks later now, and this is amazingly still going on, in two stories with AL.com, in which they talk about they have an answer for pretty much everything, but none of it makes any sense.
Right. I mean, Jack, they said that she didn't have a stroke, which is great. We never said she had a stroke. They said she had altitude sickness, which is okay. They then said that she was not in the hospital for 4 days. And then Kay Ivey herself came forward and said, I was in the hospital for 3 days. Eileen Jones, her spokesperson, told me on the phone, she said, well, if the reporter doesn't ask the right question, I don't have to answer it. And so she claims that the reporter asked, was she in the hospital 4 days? And Eileen said no, and that was okay.
And that wasn't a lie.
And that
Those
wasn't
were
a
her
lie. She
words.
said that's not a lie.
Well, I think the bigger story is the trooper reassignment.
Right.
They're never going to admit she had a TIA or altitude sickness or if she had a stroke. They're not going to go any farther on that.
And I think the thing is, basic language, we all speak English. I mean, Susan, when a reporter asks a spokesperson a question, they expect them to answer honestly and transparently, not as if they were a trial lawyer. And that was our point with that. But to Jack's point, Steve Pelham, chief of staff, told AL.com, he said there was no directive and no punishment of Trooper Drew Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was
that an accurate statement?
I think Mr. Pelham should have checked with Mr. Brooks's personnel file before he actually made that statement, because it is public record, so we did go down to personnel and actually look at Mr. Brooks' personnel file, and here's the letter, which I'm sure Jonathan will show you on the screen, that says that he was directed, I hereby direct your transfer from Protective Services to the Information Bureau, Licensed Services, Exams Region D, based out of Dothan. Not only did they do that, but they also modified his pay from his dignitary protection pay from $2,000 down to $1,800.
And Josh, they said, Steve Pelham said there was no directive, meaning that he was not directed to move. No. Aaliyah came forward and said that he asked to be transferred. That is not true according to personnel and this letter. This
is so dumb. I mean, this is so dumb. I can't. It says in the letter he was directed. It shows how he took 3 pay decreases out of this. He was clearly put down in this place as punishment for something. It just doesn't. What are y'all doing over there? I mean, seriously, this thing should have lasted 5 minutes. It should have been a phone call. What are we talking about? This thing still 3 weeks later, because they have the incompetence level there that I just can't even imagine it. These are the people running the state government here.
I mean, Jack, what are we supposed to make of an administration that doesn't want to speak English, and then we find out that the chief of staff said there was no directive, clearly was. He said there was no punishment. It certainly appears to be punishment to me.
I think a decrease in pay is certainly a punishment. I think a reassignment from security detail to a in the dignitary protection unit to a driver's license plate. There's nothing wrong with working in a driver's license office, but you're kind of at the pinnacle of your career when you do executive security, and then to be moved without requesting it. I don't know why. First of all, I don't know why she let him go, but she has a history of that. Yeah. It's hard to work for Ivey, and from what I gather, and she's reassigned several of them. And I think a lot of them didn't go kicking and screaming. I think they were glad to get out of there.
There's a couple of things too here. As Josh pointed out, the decrease in pay. But not only was he decreased in pay, he was decreased in pay to lower than he was hired in at.
Yeah.
Is another thing.
Yeah, if you read this letter here, I mean, it's clear that he took, this was a huge hit for him. I mean, it was a huge, and no one took this voluntarily. I mean, there's just no way. Maybe you wanted to get away from this. Maybe you wanted to do whatever he wanted to do, but there's no chance in here that he took this voluntarily and moved to this driver's license office making less than he was making when he got hired.
According to the state personnel board, a directive means that he was not forced, but his boss said, you're moving over here and you're out of here. And they don't have to give a reason.
Well, and also, let's don't forget that Aaliyah piped up and said that Mr. Brooks, or Officer Brooks, requested this move. Yeah. I have his personnel records right here. There is no request, and according to personnel, if he had requested to be moved, and that was the result of him being moved to Dothan, it would be in here.
Well, you know, Jack, they lied about Spencer Collier once. I guess they're lying again because Spencer Collier signed that directive.
Well, at any rate, if you're going to move a guy because you can't get along with him or for whatever reason, or he talked out of school, at least give him the same pay.
Yeah.
I mean, but, you know, and Drew Brooks is a good guy. So
why are we lying about this? That's what I just don't understand. What happened with this? I don't understand why when the original phone call was made, or when you sent the stuff to them and said, this is what we know. I mean, she's in an advanced age here. She made a trip to Colorado. I mean, going to the hospital for 3 days, even if there were stroke-like symptoms, it's not the end of the world. It was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Why don't you just say? Well, I don't understand what the point of any of this is.
And then why would Steve Pelham come out and directly contradict the facts that were so easy to find in the state personnel records?
And didn't he also say that he wasn't a directive, that he was actually promoted?
They said he was promoted.
Yeah,
this is not a promotion to me when you get a decrease in pay like that.
I mean, maybe it is in this state. I don't know.
We are backwards after all, right?
I don't know. Maybe it just works in reverse.
You know, it's just sad. Did they not learn anything from the Bentley administration, Jack?
Yeah, cover up ain't a good thing.
No, it's not. Well, we got 10 seconds. Who wants the last word?
Did Rebecca Mason do this?
Nobody can find her, including Bentley.
Actually, I think she would have been smarter than this.
Yeah, I kind of think so. All right, you're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and analysis. the voice of Alabama politics. We do wish Governor Kay Ivey all the best. Kay Ivey herself never told a lie.
No, she
It
didn't.
was her staff that equivocated and misled and lied.
I hope she has a successful trip to Paris, too.
I do
I
too.
do too.
I just hope she doesn't get altitude sickness.
No, no, that's it.
That could happen.
Yeah, it could happen.
I tell you something that really, this reminds me. That was signed by Spencer Collier. And I tried to call him, and he said he couldn't comment on this, but he would at a later date. If we're still needed information. But Spencer's thinking about running for higher office. We hear he didn't tell me that, but I heard that he's looking at a run, Jack.
I wonder what he's looking at running for.
I asked him. He said, "Well, I'll let you know." But I heard that it's a statewide office, something statewide.
I know that Melissa is very ardent that it's going to have to be a big position for
she don't
her
wanna
to go through that
Yeah.
again.
Anyway, we wish him all the best.
Absolutely.
Well, he was a state rep for several terms, and I actually worked for him, and he's a friend, and we've had discussions about it in the past, but nothing concrete. He's now the police chief in Selma.
I don't know. I mean, he's a good guy. He's got, I don't know what his name ID is out there. He's certainly known a lot of folks.
I would say whatever would get him out of Selma would probably be helpful for him.
But they got shooting wars down there
Shooting
every day.
wars. Now they're running an investigation of the previous administration down there. I mean, it's just a mess.
Yeah, the gun thugs are the least of their problem down there. It's the politicians.
Well, it seemed like the polies were helping the gun thugs
Yeah,
for a while.
exactly. That's right. Well, Spencer
think they
Collier
were.
is doing a great job down there, and so is Dario Melton. The AG's race, Jack, is heated up with Steve Marshall, who was appointed by Robert Bentley. He's in. He wants the job real bad. But up pops Alice Martin, one of the most successful U.S. attorneys to ever grace the state of Alabama.
I've never met Steve Marshall, but I do understand that he had approached some people prior to being appointed by Bentley that he was seriously considering running for that post. Then Bentley appointed him, and now Alice, who used to work there, who he let go when he first got over there, is mounting a campaign. Alice, and I don't know Steve Marshall. He's well liked over there.
Yes,
from
he is.
what his employees tell me. Alice Martin is tough as nails. She's competent, she's attractive, she's smart. And I think she will be a very formidable candidate.
Susan, she says she is running on public corruption to take down white-collar crime and public corruption at the highest level. She has a history of this, going back 25 years.
And she said that is her number one priority. And she's going to go after that. And her record is impeccable. I mean, she got 25 years of prosecuting public corruption and white-collar crime and violent crime. She was a federal prosecutor under President Reagan, George H.W. Bush, and then after 9/11 under President George W. Bush. She prosecuted over 4,600 federal firearms, narcotics, child pornography, and violent crimes. Resolved over 8,200 civil cases, which she says is also a big part of the Attorney General's office. Recovered $750 million in health care fraud, and formed the North Alabama Public Corruption Task Force and obtained 140 federal corruption convictions.
Well,
she knows her place.
Paid for by Alice.
I was going to say,
I'm just so impressed.
and bake some cakes and.
You can send the check to.
It just is like a woman that old commercial. I can bring home the bacon and cook it up in the pan.
Fry it up in the
I think
pan,
there's a
baby.
woman thing going on here.
Yeah, of course there is.
That's what I'm thinking.
The thing that she needs to do is she's got to let people know what role she played. And I think a big part of that is letting people know that she got run out over there essentially because she was too tough on public corruption. I mean, we seem to have a pretty big problem with public corruption.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all have taken a look around at the state's highest offices.
Well, she came in when they were trying to kill the Mike Hubbard investigation. She took over, Jack, we know, and she gave them all the support they could ever use. I heard she went in and told Luther Strange, we will shut down, or the people over there, we will shut down every department in here to make sure that the Special Prosecution Unit has the resources to prosecute this case.
And she's the one that moved the resources because there were only 2 attorneys on that case, and she's the one that moved additional attorneys into the task force to help them prepare for trial.
Well, I understand that Jim Ziegler is considering a run for AG.
Really?
He is a lawyer.
Well,
but
and
you don't have to be, I don't think, by
I don't
statute. But
Well, that'd be a colorful office then.
oh my
They really
God.
would.
You know.
Well, it would leak like a sieve. But, I mean,
Well, that might not be terrible.
Not my business.
no.
You know, I do want to, another point here I think is interesting is I asked her what she thought about Bentley's plea, and she just, I mean, she was like, ooh, you know, the cartoon character steam comes out of there, you know, John.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the people who were involved in that are pretty steamed about the plea and about the process of that plea, because believe it or not, it was going to be worse before it got better, before Bentley screwed it up. But yeah, I don't think anyone over there was very happy with that. The people who worked in that division of this, I don't think were very
She
pleased.
said Larry Langford would have been more than happy to have taken this deal.
Well, he got 13 years in federal prison,
I would
so
imagine.
whatever.
Yeah.
My point, though, about Bentley and that charge that he accepted a contribution outside of the window, they need to look at everybody.
Yeah.
They don't need to just single out Bentley.
That's true.
A lot of those clowns over there don't report correctly on their forms. I used to jump on Merrill because he said he was going to review them all, and I called him up one day, raising Cain with him, or he called me raising Cain because I'd mentioned it on the show. But they are, let me just say this, they will have a report before too long because he has found a lot of discrepancy.
Well, I would say that a lot of that was they wanted to get Bentley on something. And so that's what they used to get him. It's kind of like the O.J. Simpson deal, where O.J. Simpson's serving a long prison sentence for robbery, but really for murder. And so I think that's what the whole point was with the Bentley stuff, and that's the reason why they singled him out of that big group. But you're right, there is a ton of that stuff lingering out right there, and I hope that some people have to start abiding by the rules there.
Well, listen, some of these are felonies. I mean, they're
Yeah.
What Bentley faced was felony, and they knocked it down to a misdemeanor, slapped him on the wrist, let him go home. I mean, listen, he's broken anyway. I get it. But look, I'm with Alice Martin. These guys, they're not special. They're not, they may think they're the elite, but they're not, Jack. And we need to keep them.
Well, it's easier to break the law when you're in the bottom, but when you're at the top and you break the law, they're going to go after you.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
but it's like one of the things that she specifically pointed out is because Robert Bentley was who he was, he got a lighter sentence than somebody that might have committed another crime that carried the same penalties, and they got
But
the
he also
full,
got more scrupiny.
Well, true, but the
Well,
law
he
is the
should.
law.
Yeah.
They should get more
I mean,
scrutiny.
we got to
Yeah, the
hold
governor.
these people to a higher standard.
Exactly.
You have to be accountable for what you do.
Yep, that's right.
Or don't do.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with our special guest, Speaker Mac McCutcheon. We're in the house with him this week.
Thank you, Dad. Thank you for waking up early and staying up late. Thanks for putting food on the table and teaching us the importance of hard work. Thanks for playing and laughing and chasing and splashing. Thanks for the games of catch and the piggyback rides. Thanks for helping us with our homework and encouraging us and cheering us on. Thanks for showing us when to take risks and how to be brave. Thanks for just being there. Thanks for showing us how to pray and give and grow in God. Thanks for teaching us how to be parents ourselves. It's not an easy job being a dad. Thanks for doing it. Happy Father's Day.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We're continuing our series with Speaker Mac McCutcheon. He'll be our guest at least once a month. Speaker McCutcheon, thank you for having us back.
Always good to have you in the People's House. Activity has ceased. Now the session's over, but we're still here.
And that's something we were talking about the other, before we got started. You are the Speaker of the House. You're also a representative of your district. But you have to be concerned about every district out there, every representative out there, which basically turns this into a full-time job.
It really is. You get so many phone calls from my fellow House members, their concerns or my concerns. Our office staff is working every day, and I'm usually in Montgomery at least once a week working on some kind of issue concerning the state. So yes, in many ways it's a full-time job. We work full-time.
Well, I know you're on the phone constantly, texting and chatting with your people and constituents. I know right now one of the issues that's come up over the last few weeks is that you've made some changes in the House leadership, brought over Mike Jones to be rules. Also, I wanted to talk to you about how that all occurred and why it occurred.
Okay. We, as you know, we're nearing an election year. Right. And this next session will be the session going into an election. And because of that, the current, or I should say the past Rules Chairman, Representative Booth, made the decision and the announcement that he was not going to run again. Representative Booth has been in this chamber for many, many years and has the respect of all of the members.
Sure.
And he just made the decision that it was time for him to step down. And because of that, going into the session with an election year ahead, I felt like it was the proper timing, and he did as well. This was a mutual understanding that he and I sat down and talked about. We felt like for those reasons that it was time for him to step back and allow someone else to step up into that position. Because there's a lot of issues. The Rules Chairman works very close with the Speaker.
Right.
And there are a lot of issues among members that will come up during the session that have to do with the campaigns.
Right.
And so it's good to have somebody in that position that is actively involved in the campaigning process for the members as a whole. And so because of that, Chairman Booth made the decision that he wanted to step down. Now,
But you've given him a new position.
Yes.
You're going to work him till the very end.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. You know, it's like my grandfather used to say, you don't take a good mule and keep them in the barn. You need to work them.
That's
and
right.
so Representative Booth has done such a great job. And I say again, he's well respected from all the members. And it would really be a waste for him just to ride off into the sunset and not finish up this last session with some responsibility. So I've been looking at the need for a House floor person, someone who's well respected on both sides of the aisle. And when we get into issues and debates on this floor over legislation, there are a lot of dynamics going on.
Sure.
And many times you need somebody who could be a good moderator or a communicator, if you will, to cross that aisle and talk to the members and then relay that information back up to the Speaker's chair so we can know what direction we're going in. And so he will be a perfect fit for that.
Yeah, it sounds like, and it is an important position that you didn't have.
That's right.
I think, you know, of course, there was some, you know, this is a town full of rumors. I mean, folks just sit by the campfire and make stuff out of whole cloth.
Yeah, it's amazing what goes on down those halls.
Yeah, and, you know, we know that people start rumors to other ends, as we've talked before.
That's true.
But there was a rumor that that Mike Jones, Representative Mike Jones, might take a stab at running against you as Speaker. But as it turns out, I spoke to Representative Jones, and he said, oh no, he said, y'all have gotten close, and he's really excited about working as Rules Chair with you.
Mm-hmm. I am too. You will not find a legislator in this body that works any harder than Representative Mike Jones. There's no way, even if you read the report over the impeachment issue that we went through, the report does not do justice to the work that Representative Jones done. It was historical. It was a lot of long hours that he spent. And through that, we became very close, and I have the utmost respect for him and trust in him.
That's the big key right there. The Speaker has to be able to trust the Rules Chair, because there are times when you're going to have to call on him to assist you with things that are important and that you need done as the leader of this body.
That's true. That's true.
And he and I talked a bit about the fairness, the actual idea that you're running this as a fair process, an inclusive process, which he stands behind you 100%.
Yes, he's in lockstep with me on that, which means a lot, which helps to just reinforce that trust that we have in each other.
Sure. We've only got about 2.5 minutes left, but I wanted to get to a couple of other things. People are still concerned about the infrastructure. I know Governor Ivey was recently in D.C. at the infrastructure meeting with President Trump. There's only about 8 governors there. Is that a conversation that you're having with with the governor, or has that happened yet, or is there a conversation?
Yes, we're still talking about that issue and trying to educate members, and we're still looking for the right formula to put into a piece of legislation to make that work. The infrastructure in this state, I was just talking with some people the other day, and they said that they had made the trip from North Alabama down to the beaches and Gulf Shores, and said it almost took them 2 hours longer to make that trip because of the congestion on the highway.
Right.
There was no major work or no accident. It was just a lot of traffic on the road.
Sure.
This kind of thing's going on all over the state, Bill, and it will not get any better, and we need to make sure that we stay ahead of the curve. And if the federal government makes a move to help us with our infrastructure, we've got to have dollars to match that funding, and so we need to keep talking about this.
Do you think this may lead to Governor Ivey calling a special session?
I don't know if I would go as far as to say there would be a special session over infrastructure, but there's a possibility in that. I think that there may be an opportunity for a special session dealing with the prison reform issue.
Right. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, I think that's a real possibility.
Right.
Based on what the court says. But keep in mind, I always emphasize by saying this is the governor's call.
Right.
This is not from the speaker's chair or the pro tem. This is the governor's call. We're here to support the governor.
Okay.
But I know the prison reform would be the first priority for a special.
Well, we're going to have to leave it right there, unfortunately. If you've got a few minutes to stick around, we'll come back for our special session.
All right, that'd be great. That'd be great.
If you'd like to see an extended version of my interview with Speaker Mac McCutcheon, go to alreporter.com and click on the V. You've been watching the V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them. Welcome back to the V special session with Speaker Mac McCutcheon. We're back.
Good to have you back. Good to have you back. Good to be here.
We were talking about infrastructure earlier, and then we switched over to prisons, and we know that the federal government is going to make some ruling. We just don't know when, but it should be sooner than later. Mm-hmm. So you've been in discussions with lots of folks about the prison. We keep hearing that there is some rethinking of the prison bill, that we may see some more different version. Could you share with us any about that?
Well, I know that, of course, we've presented the plan to the court, and then our attorneys have prepared a statement supporting our decision. Right now there has been a counter statement made as to the objections of the plan from the plaintiffs, and from that, then there'll be a response to that. So we're still, I think, a few weeks away from having some kind of decision by the court. With that in mind, there's discussions about would the issue of bricks and mortar do what the court is wanting us to do.
Right.
Southern Poverty Law Institute is pushing this. There's the House, as we had talked earlier, the House came up with a substitute to the Senate's version of the prison reform bill.
Right.
We're still working on that substitute, which I think at this point has probably been one of the best plans that the legislature has been able to put together.
Right.
I think there's a possibility that it could be tweaked. We're going to continue to work on it. As a matter of fact, we just spoke with some legislators today about the opportunity for us to come back together out of session and continue to work on this. And so we're still working, Bill. I just feel like at this point we're a little anxious to see what the court is going to send, what the order is going to be from Judge Thompson.
Well, having visited a number of the prisons around the state, including Tutwiler and St. Clair and Elmore, which, you know, none of those are places anybody wants to go, but they're just a click above, you know, being in a third world country. I mean, they're just not. Prison's not supposed to be nice. We get that, but it should be humane, and we're just borderline on that. I think is kind of the case that's been made, but the issue of mental health and accessibility and health care and those things, those will not be addressed by bricks and mortar, but the facilities will the facilities allow for more and better care?
And that's an issue there that I would hope people will look beyond the wall of the new facility and look to what's going on inside that new facility. The ability to supervise and manage the inmates, that's an important issue. Safety of the corrections officers is an important issue. And the better management we have within the facility, then the better care the inmates are going to receive. Having space available to segregate. You've got troublemakers within the facility now that are having to be housed in dorms with other inmates, which is causing a huge problem and a safety issue for all the inmates. Having a facility that's modern enough to where you can manage those people with fewer corrections officers and do it safer, segregate members that have mental health issues, that are having drug rehab issues, medical issues, being able to have facilities that are modern and update where you could give care to those facilities. That is a part of bricks and mortar.
Sure.
So we're looking at all of these things from a House perspective on this piece of legislation, and so it's more than just a brick wall or a concrete block wall. It's about being able to manage inmates.
Well, and then that's one of the things we've talked about in the past. You know, just because you're in prison doesn't mean you've lost your humanity.
That's right.
And you know, it is punitive, but it's a public safety issue. I mean, I just remember going into the shower area at Tutwiler, and I mean, most people wouldn't wash their dog in there. It was clean, and it was spotless clean. But I mean, it's old, it's dilapidated. You've got 4 or 5 women that have to share that facility about as close as you and I are. And it has to have an impact on their morale and how they feel about themselves.
Sure.
And that can't be good. I don't see how that's good for
I agree.
us.
And of course, that was one of the reasons that the House substitute bill has in it for us to build a brand new women's facility.
Yeah.
The Senate version had monies to remodel, but we just felt like that was not a good investment for the taxpayer, and so we just said we felt like we could build a new women's facility that would be more modern. It would have just a better approach to taking care of the inmates that are in there. So that was one of the things. Another issue in the House substitute was there's a facility that's already built in Perry County.
Right.
And we included that in the substitute, which would be an opportunity for us to have a rehab facility for inmates to try to get them back into society. And it would be a multi-county cooperative effort to use that facility to help with our inmates getting them back in.
And basically, the state can pick up that facility for
pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The election season is coming up. You're out traveling the roads. Everybody's trying to raise money and get their campaign off the ground. What's your thoughts on the election? I know there's going to be some open seats. You're probably having to recruit some candidates.
We are. And I must say that's going well. We've got some good names of prospective candidates out there to take these empty House seats. We're looking at somewhere right now, the number that we had yesterday, we're looking about 17 to 20 possible open seats out there for the House members, which is a pretty good number. But we're talking to prospective members and talking to the districts and the communities, and so there's some good people that want to run.
The fundraising efforts, how is that going?
It's going well. It's going well. We're still trying to understand the ethics laws and make sure that our members are well versed on what they can do and what they cannot do. When it comes to principals and the contributors, the vendors that want to support candidates, we're making sure that we're doing everything above board and following the ethics laws that we have.
Well, and that's, I've brought this up many times. I wanted to see that new ethics package come together. There have been some people who've raised issues with it that it needs to be simplified, handle some of the major things, and then come back with a full-on package in 18 or after 18.
Yeah, I think, when we look at the ethics issue, we had some good discussions with the AG, and they did some good work trying to come up with some ideas about the ethics law. It's more of an important issue, especially with campaigning going on, and there's some gray areas there when it comes to defining what is a principle, and when you look at some of those things. So I agree with you. I'm hoping that once we get into this election year, we move forward, that we can clear up some of the issues in our ethics law. I think that's important.
The idea is to clarify and strengthen that.
Yes. We've got good ethics laws. We've got one of the toughest ethics laws now in the country.
Right.
And we want to protect that.
Right.
But we also need clarity.
People need to know where the fence is.
That's right.
It's like kids on a playground.
Yeah, that's true.
Or cows.
That's right.
Got to know where the fence is.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for staying on with us and sharing with us your thoughts.
Pleasure.
We appreciate it. Hope you come back soon. I guess at least in a month.
Hey, we'll be back. We'll be back.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Okay.
Thank you for tuning in to the special session with Speaker Mac McCutcheon. He'll be back soon.